Welcome to the CTA Foundation's CES 2021 interview series. My name is Steve Ewell, and I'm the Executive Director of the Consumer Technology Association Foundation. And I'm really pleased today to be joined by Jan Majewski, the Director of Inclusive Cultural and Educational Projects, and Anoopa Sundararajan, the Human Factors and Inclusive Technology Researcher from the Institute for Human-Centered Design. Welcome, Jan and Anoopa. I'm so happy to have you both here with us at CES this year. First off, for those that don't know the Institute for Human-Centered Design, can you share some of the work that you do?
Thank you, Steve, and it's a real pleasure to be here. IHCD, Institute for Human-Centered Design, is a 42-year-old organization with headquarters in Boston, Mass, and staff, even pre-COVID, who work remotely around the country. We are a mission-driven nonprofit that advocates for excellence in design to serve people on the very broad spectrum of ability, age, and culture. Our clients and collaborators are wide-ranging, from public transportation to healthcare to residential, and to my favorite, cultural organizations. We work with museums across the country and globally to make all aspects of visitor and staff experiences accessible and inclusive for everyone, particularly for people with disabilities. Accessibility is our baseline, and we create inclusion from there.
Well, that's great. And I can't wait to dig into some of the work that you're doing that we've been supporting. But before we get there, why is it so important to design using human-centered practices?
So two of the core beliefs that drive our organization, our design and consulting work that we do, are that variation in human ability is ordinary, not special, and it affects most of us at some part of our lives. And the other principle is that design profoundly influences our daily lives and our sense of confidence, comfort, and control, which is something that we all like to feel in any given situation. So extending from those beliefs, any design of a space, product, or service that we create or consult on, we believe can only be truly effective when we engage the real end users of those spaces and products as part of the design process. So in order to do that, we engage who we call user experts, a term we use for people who are experts of their lived experiences as people with physical, sensory, or brain-based disabilities. And we believe that engaging them iteratively throughout the design process ensures that we're getting a wide range of perspectives and understanding that designing accessibly for people at the edges of the spectrums of age, ability, and culture actually makes the design better for everyone else in the middle as well.
I couldn't agree more. I really think it's so important to consider that as you're designing products, because it will help all of us as we're moving forward. So I'm really excited to see all the work that you're doing. This year we've been able to have the opportunity to support some of the work that you're doing with the Latino Center at the Smithsonian Institution. Can you share some more information about that project and the work that you're doing?
We're really excited to tell you about this project, and we're thrilled to be a part of it. The Molina Family Latino Gallery is the first national Latino gallery at the Smithsonian. It will showcase the U.S. Latino experience and tell U.S. history from the perspectives of the diverse Latinos, Latinas who lived it. Early on in the gallery's development, the center made a commitment to ensuring that the gallery would be inclusive for people with disabilities and inclusive bilingually. IHCD started working with the center and the Access Smithsonian Office to make that happen. A major feature of the exhibition is extraordinary touchscreen digital interactives, an interface that is inherently inaccessible for individuals who are blind and is problematic without careful design for people who have low vision, have limited hand and arm mobility, and some people with brain-based disabilities. With support of our CTAF grant, we are working with tech experts and user experts, as Anoopa described, people with lived experience of disability, to map keypads to these complex, multi-layered digital programs and provide a tactile and audio interface that allows full participation with the interactives. We're hoping to find ways in the future to supplement this tactile keypad with an accessible smart device keypad that will allow a contact-free interaction as well.
Well, that is so important because, museums are so important as a center for us to learn about our history, various cultures, and to make that accessible for people across the disability spectrum, but particularly with some of the touchscreen devices, helping people who are blind or low vision be able to interface. It helps everyone engage with the new center. So I'm really thrilled to see the work that you're doing in that space. And some of the lessons that you learn from this project will probably reach a broader community as well. How are you able to take the practices that you're developing with the Smithsonian and be able to work with other museums and their designs?
Well, we're already sharing what we're learning with other Smithsonian museums and several of our client museums across the country. Anoopa and I have museum clients in various locations, and we're eager to share with them any information on this project. At the end of the grant period, we'll develop a white paper on the project that we'll distribute via our website and the Smithsonian's, and hopefully we'll disseminate it through professional museum organizations and conferences like the American Alliance for Museums, MuseWeb, and others. Digital experiences are pervasive in museum exhibitions in one way or another. We'll also create a testimonial video that will strongly advocate that museums design for inclusion. So these features of their exhibitions that seem to be more and more prominent will be designed for inclusion from the very inception of every digital and every other project to ensure that accessibility isn't a Band-Aid, but an integrated and essential design focus.
That sounds incredible. And one of our other grant recipients loves to say born accessible. And I think that's something that when we can look at how these exhibits can be born accessible and usable for as many people as possible is really such an important opportunity. And I look forward to seeing this reach far and wide. How are you testing and reviewing designs now that museums are closed and in-person user expert reviews are not possible for the foreseeable future? Are there technologies that have emerged that you're using, and are there benefits to using this new approach?
Most definitely, and we're learning as we go. IHCD and other museums have been working for years with user experts to learn what works and what doesn't and who we are excluding from participation. But it's always been an in-person, one-on-one in exhibits or small groups in conference room type experience. When COVID hit and museums closed, design development continued on. So how do we get user expert opinions and understand how they use or can't use the programs? Like the rest of the world, we look to video conferencing, and first for digital interactives and then for mechanical interactives and tactile experiences. We now see that this is an even better way forward in a lot of testing, and we'll use it even after the vaccine rights the world.
And to add to what Jen has laid out, I think we've learned a lot of lessons ourselves throughout this process, particularly on how we can really move towards co-designing with our user experts in every realm, engaging them earlier in the process than we were able to before, for example, with mechanical or tactile experiences for which we needed to have something mechanical or tactile that they could touch and tell us their feedback on. But now really thinking as co-designers, explaining ideas to them with video conferencing being one of our only mediums of communication, I think we've also learned, gearing actually away a little bit from experimenting with new technologies, but also solidifying our use of what's already out there and how can we really harness all of the benefits that it gives us. To give a quick example of that, we've learned in testing recently digital interactives with user experts remotely that the difference between doing that remotely and doing that in the museum context is that we're actually able to hear what their screen reader is reading out to them when we're doing it remotely because they're sharing their screen, which was a problem that existed when it was being tested in the museum experiences. We were relying on what only they were able to hear and their experience of that. So that's just a small example of one of the many benefits that we've learned about through this phase that we hope will help us move forward into also engaging user experts throughout the country and throughout the world, which we relied on people coming into a specific space before. And now we're really excited to be able to engage a wide range of people from all over the country and all over the world. And we hope that that will also help create more inclusive experiences for everyone.
Yeah, I think it's great to see some of the positive aspects. I mean, certainly there's been lots of challenges that we've all experienced over the last year, but to be able to see some of the benefits and some of the new opportunities that we've been able to do by reaching further and engaging digitally and virtually. And while I still love the opportunity to get together in person with people, and I look forward to that. I think there's a lot of good that we're going to see come out of this as far as the opportunities to engage further, wider, get more people involved in design and discussions in this space. So yeah, I think there's a lot of great positives, and it sounds like it's really applying to the work that you're doing. We'll actually like to kind of take a little bit of a higher level step back because many of the people in our audience watching now, they're designers, they're engineers, they're building products that we all may be using. Why is it, or can you help highlight why it is so important to design accessibility into products for the broader population?
I think in general, we begin with the importance of having people tell us in their own words what works and what doesn't, and how designs can be better made to suit people's needs, rather than, I think, the perspective of designing what we think will work and then saying, how can you as a user fit yourself to this product or service? So I think that's one of the key things, and that covers really a wide range of people. And that's where we say, make sure that when you do that, you engage a wide range of users so you're getting enough information to go from. And then thinking more specifically about the museum context and being cognizant of the demographic that makes up the majority of museum visitors. We're talking about mixed family groups of visitors, older adults, and many people with disabilities. Designing accessibly is a necessity in order to create equivalent museum experiences for all. So, we're fully aware of the fact that in any situation, museum or not, every individual is not going to walk away with exactly the same experience. But how do we as designers, engineers, creators of these experiences make it so that every individual has the opportunity to gain something out of every experience? Whatever that may be would be different for individuals, as we are all unique. And to add to that, many people don't self-identify as being people with disabilities. So designing inclusive experiences is key, because people will still benefit from accessible and inclusive designs, whether or not they identify as being a person with a disability. To give you a couple of examples, things that are typically considered part of quote unquote accessible design, like having adequate color contrast, legible font types, and large font sizes, those often end up being usable for all visitors, regardless of whether or not they have a disability. And similarly, another example, this is a personal favorite for me. I will find any situation to insert this example into, because I've also seen in my own personal experience so many people using it these days, right? Captioning is something that was originally intended as an accommodation for people who are deaf or hard of hearing. But it's something that's become so ubiquitous these days that we all use it as a feature now, not as an accommodation anymore. We used it in the pre-COVID days when we took public transit all the time when we were on the train and wanted to watch a video and couldn't play that out loud. So I think thinking of those kinds of things as, thinking of them more broadly, not as accommodations, not as things that you have to do to meet code compliance, but to think of it as creating usable, inclusive designs and experiences that do truly end up benefiting a much wider audience than you might even intend to.
I think that's very well said. And it's such an important message, and it benefits all of us to have accessible and well-designed products. So if people want to learn more about the work of the Institute for Human-Centered Design, where should they go?
I think the best place is to go to our website, which is www.humancentereddesign.org. There's a lot of information there. And in addition, one particularly new resource, which we're very proud about, is one on inclusive digital interactives. It's under our resources section under inclusive design. And this is a collection of 16 articles from around the country that talk about how they made museum interactives inclusive within their own context. It's a collaborative project between IHCD, the Smithsonian, and Muse Web.
That's great. Well, I highly encourage people to go to your website, check out all the resources that are there. And I really look forward to going to the Smithsonian once the new Latino Center exhibit is open and ready, and seeing all the great technology that you've helped incorporate into that design. So thank you so much, Jan and Anoopa, for joining here today. Always a pleasure to talk to you, and glad to have you here at CES this year.
Thank you so much, Steve. It's been our pleasure.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you to the CTA Foundation for this extraordinary grant. We really appreciate it.
Well, we love being able to support your work. For the audience, if you're interested in learning more about the CTA Foundation, you can go to ctafoundation.tech, and I hope you have a wonderful CES 2021.